I'm Coach Dave. Welcome back to Coach's Corner.
Come on.
All right, we're back again with another episode of Coach's Corner. Coach Dave McDonough here with my good friend Neil Pellone, representing the Tough Tony team. Got a couple things going on this month with him, so we brought him on here today. Kind of tell us a little bit about what's going on with the Tough Tony team and what you are trying to establish here with them. So we'll let Neil start it off right here. Hope you're doing well and appreciate you having to take the time out, buddy.
Appreciate the time, Dave, and appreciate the opportunity to speak about a great promotion we have going on. We're trying to, with October being Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and I promote a all-female boxing team. We want to be able to raise awareness for domestic violence and support the victims of domestic violence. So we have a T-shirt promotion going. I'm wearing it now. It's my usual logo, which is the pink gloves, the pink wording with the purple ribbon, and it says, "Fighting for more than victory." So we're fighting for the victims as well and trying to give some inspiration to domestic violence survivors.
Right. So with the promotion right now, how did this? Let's talk about the promotion right now. What's the thought process behind this, and how did you get involved to start this out? And we're a little late in the month, but that doesn't mean anything right now. The shirts will be available out there, and you have numerous fighters involved with this for you. Where are the proceeds going for this?
The proceeds are going to a domestic violence industry called My Sister's Keeper. It's a great shelter, great foundation, very big in New York, and especially in Westchester. And a good friend who's actually in the boxing industry, Charlie Wood, he was one of them that suggested it to me. My wife was a big domestic violence advocate in New York City. She had the same name, so it was a no-brainer to go with My Sister's Keeper.
Yeah. I mean, look, a great charity, as we know. Unfortunately, there is a lot of this that goes on, not only in our sport, but in life itself. And if you talk to some of the female fighters, there's been some, different trials and tribulations that they had to go through with this. So, yeah, with this, your start of the Tough Tony team, female team, how did that come about? And, tell us a little bit about what you're doing with that, and I'll jump in here.
Sure. Yeah, my journey's been interesting with this. As you're aware, my uncle was Tough Tony Pellone, a welterweight from the 40s, #1 ranked for a couple of years. Never really had a shot at a championship, but had over 100 fights in a 9-year career, which was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
There was a campaign to get him into the New York State Boxing Hall of Fame, and that's where I kind of joined in on it. And at the same time, my art kind of met a young lady that you've helped train, Michaela, and we got her into the gym, and that's how our friendship started. And from getting in the gym with Michaela and just meeting other people, and as a matter of fact, there's one fighter that's on my team, Jaisha Zapata, who's now a 10-time national champion. Next month she'll be an 11-time national champion.
Right.
Her father and I just started shooting the shit really over the Tough Tony page. And he was into my uncle's page and my uncle's stuff. And then we just started speaking about the female fighting. So I took an interest in Jaisha, going to the gym with Michaela. I met another young lady named Alex who really inspired me a lot because I like the dichotomy of a female fighter. I like the toughness in the ring, and they can still be a lady outside the ring sometimes if that's the way they choose. It's pretty interesting and pretty cool to watch.
I mean, with the evolution of women's boxing right now, we see it at Jake Paul with MVP Promotions signing multiple female fighters, and, being in the gyms now all over the place where we didn't have a lot of women fighters in the gym. Now there's multiples of them. What is your, with your platform, what are you looking to try to do with these women fighters as far as because all of them aren't going to be pros. A lot of the fighters you're working with right now are young amateur fighters, fighters that are in it for the love of the game, who have careers outside of it. Some are students. They just really love the sport. And being in the gym and seeing some of the young ladies that you're working with is real. They work really, really hard at their sport.
Well, you're spot on. First off, going back to the Jake Paul thing. Jake Paul talks about in this day and age that everyone's got to be a self-promoter and talk about themselves on social media. And the old days of having a promoter promoting you is kind of not dead, but you got to get to that level first. And the self-promoting part is important with social media. And that's why I came that's my niche right now is I'll post a video and get 3, 4, 5,000 views, thanks to people like yourself collaborating on it. And it's important to show the hard work that these girls do in the gym. And on that note, I also just want to shout out 2 gyms in particular, Champs in Danbury, and Champs in New Rochelle has a great female sorority down there. And it's really cool to watch them interact with each other, come in and spar, but also have a sisterhood.
Yeah, Ryan O'Leary does a great job with bringing in, look, it's hard at the women's game to get good work anywhere across the board, okay? I know you hear the stories, trainers are traveling, they're all over the place to try to find sparring or equivalent work. Not every trainer wants their woman fighter sparring with men all the time, and I totally understand that. They're not going to fight men no matter what. And that's not saying they can't, but it's just that's the way it is right now, okay? So they have to test themselves against what they're going to fight. Ryan, for whatever reason, right now has a mass amount of women fighters down there at many different levels. It's just, you kind of got to go through him in the women's world, I guess, right now in our area, because that's where the game is. And, to Jake Paul being self-promotion, okay, fighters, I think, are smarter, and this is not just women right now. As a fighter, there's good and bad, right? So Jake Paul has money. He can call the self-promotion, okay, but he's still signing fighters underneath him. Okay, they're promoting themselves to help promote his brand, but he is still taking a piece of that off of it. And, I don't think fighters really are going to be able to move at a Jake Paul level because he's financially flush. So
Correct.
He can write a check to do a show. He can write a check, get a deal with Netflix, get sponsors and everything else. So it is a little easier, especially in the women's end. Not every promoter wants to sign women fighters.
Well, what's interesting on that note is when you do get a fight for a woman, professional, they want you to sell seats. They want you to sell 20, 40 seats, 50 seats. That's where the social media comes in, because if you don't have that reach, you're not going to have 40, 50 friends to come every couple of months to see you fight and spend $80 for a round in seats. But if you have a following of 10,000 people, then you should be able to dip into that pool and be able to go to that promoter and say, hey, listen, I can sell 50 seats without a problem.
Yeah, and I think, look, as a fighter, male or female today, the platform of social media, you got to become global, all right? Because you can't just be, a fighter known in your area. That's all great, but you know what? A global fighter now. Now people get to see you around the country, around the world. They can watch your career as your career evolves in front of you. So, you taking this and, putting your name on it, Tough Tony team, what's the criteria you're looking at for people to be part of your network and your team?
I just like dedicated people. I like dedicated people that are into the sport and looking to progress. And there's some people, like you said, they're not going to probably ever go pro, but there's a passion in it. And it's really exciting. Like there's a young lady from up in the Albany way, Riley. And Riley's got a ton of passion. And going back to what you spoke about earlier, the traveling. She comes down to New Rochelle from the Albany area to get good sparring down at Ryan's gym don't take a 2-hour drive just to spar for an hour and a half. But it's well worth it.
Right. No, you got to go, where the game is. So, your history in the sport goes back to your uncle and the people that your network that you've put around it. Do you feel your experience seeing that is something that you can bring value to these young ladies with? And what is the response with them? Because, look, and I was talking with our previous guest, the history of boxing is going. So it's these young people, we're boxing people. We talk boxing,
Sure.
right? So we'll rattle names off, not only your uncle, but there's 10 other people like your uncle that people don't know.
Correct.
People don't know that, by 21 years old, his career was over.
Yeah.
He was done. And he amassed how many fights?
109 according to him.
Right? So, that's amazing and to see that. But also, he fought for his family. He fought for a paycheck. It was his career. It wasn't just, I had nothing better to do, I'm going to be a boxer type of thing.
No, it was a different world. And, Jose Corpus, who's been on your show and is a boxing historian, boxing writer, we're in the middle of writing a couple of different things. And it is amazing just how one of the lines is one of my older uncles, his older brother, who was Anthony Pellone, that he took his name when my uncle went to the war, because my uncle's really Ciro Pellone, but he fought under Tony because he took his brother's name because he was only 15 when he started. And there's a line in one of the shows that we're getting ready to produce is, they use you. People in this industry use you. And I know because I used to patch my brother up every night. They would, after the fights, they would just drop him off and then I would have to patch him up and put him back together.
Yeah, it is. It is a tough grind on every level. But, back to the women end of it, how did you come about with this concept for the women's end?
I'm really not sure. I just think it worked. It worked. I like I said, I started working with the young lady, Michaela.
Yeah.
Then started dealing with Jasha. Then Alex. And then it just started making videos. And all of a sudden, people are just getting interested in the videos and just the production of certain things we do. And now I actually, I reached out to Maureen Shea, and Maureen's been great. She sometimes collaborates on certain videos, and she gives comment back and forth. We have Alicia Napoleon out in Long Island that's been interacting as well, and Shalito.
Yeah, well, you hit three people right there with unique careers in the women's sport. Maureen, I know Maureen from back in the day, obviously on the show, and look, she is heart and soul of women's boxing. She was in gyms when there weren't a lot of women. She was in there when, and, seeing it now, I don't know, she kind of paved the way for a lot of these people. Shelly Vincent, Women's Boxing Hall of Fame, was on the show. Tough road to get to where she had. Alicia Napoleon. I mean, these are women that paved the way that a lot of the female fighters wouldn't be here today without them. And, great advocates for you because, they all have stories. They have all personal stories that you could attach to what you're trying to achieve with the domestic violence and stuff right there.
Absolutely. The domestic violence thing, they've actually, shared here and there some of the trials and tribulations of their story and, why they're interested in helping part of this. And all three of the names that I mentioned are very inspiring, especially Maureen. Maureen she's out there still inspiring a lot of young people. Same thing with Shelly and same thing, all three of them.
Yeah, at different levels, right. Yeah, Maureen to me is, look, because of my association with her and knowing her on a personal level, she is a great advocate, not only for the sport, but for female fighters. They need to have a mentor type. Maureen's my go-to. Like, listen, you want to fight, you're going to have to talk to her because she's going to kind of tell you the ins and outs, and she's not going to sugarcoat it, what she went through, how to do it, whatever the case may be. Great mentor, smart girl. Shelly Vincent is going to be a great coach right now. Not only was a great fighter, she has a great gym in Rhode Island right now. She's building young champions out there. She knows the sport. She's been through it the hard way. Alicia Napoleon, I mean, the girl was banging people out. What a great fighter.
Absolutely.
You know what? Where does she fall today if she's fighting still, and in the market that's out there? But, we see this level of domestic abuse going on, and being in the field that you are and your wife are, you're more on the ground floor of this and see different levels of this. Why is it that we're not raising more awareness and money to this? That we have to go through someone like yourself who finds this cause to say, hey, let's put a little something behind it. Let's see what we can get.
Yeah, I think the victims of it, people don't like to exploit them or talk about them sometimes. So you're almost caught in between talking about somebody. Like, a good friend of mine has ALS and he's suffering from ALS. You could speak about that openly without shaming him, right?
Correct.
DV, domestic violence victims almost feel like a shame, and that's got to be cast aside. It's got to be cast aside. And one of the things I'm looking to do with the money we raise is to buy gift cards to give out during the holiday season, because people are in need. They're in shelters. They sometimes they might not have. Their abuser might have been their provider, their sole provider to the family. Now they break away from that and they're starting from scratch. So I want to be able to give a gift card for the holiday season so they can do something that they care to do and something that they would like.
Yeah. And on the funding right now for these shelters, where's that coming from?
Some of it, a lot of it's state funded. Like there's a great assemblywoman from Westchester County, which Amy Paulin, and Amy's very big on the domestic violence awareness. And when she was going back, a history lesson, when she was going back as a county legislator, probably 20, 25 years ago, she was on the board of My Sister's Keeper. So it just feels right with this organization, because I'm a big supporter of Assemblywoman Paulin, and her being part of that is like, it's a no-brainer to me.
Yeah. Now, with this, obviously the shirts and putting it out there, how are the girls gathering around you on your team about this for the support here? And
they're into it. They're into it. And what I want to do is, when it comes time to bring the gift cards, I'd like to get hopefully every member of the team to come with me and to, speak to the women there if we can. A lot of times they try to keep the locations private,
right,
with groups like that, but maybe you can meet at My Sister's Keeper's office with them and show, maybe get some of these women into the gym, even if you're not going to fight for professional or amateur, just to get in shape and
to
learn the
defend
trade.
yourself,
Yeah.
to feel good about yourself again, and to get out there and to move around and everything else. Some of these young ladies right now, like, we're looking at, part of the women around are young amateurs on the move, trying to move up. What do you see for them in their future with the young ladies you're working with?
Honestly, I think it's a tough grind. There's not a lot of money in this industry, and you have to have something to fall back on. You can't just put all your eggs in one basket and expect to become a millionaire, because unfortunately, the success of Amanda Serrano cuts both ways, because then some people think like, oh, that's out there. There was a grind for Amanda Serrano. She was, I'm not sure how many fights she has, but she didn't start making money until 2 years ago, basically, 3 years ago.
The little previous before Katie Taylor, when they were building it up. And look, and I'm not even going to tell you the numbers, but what they both made for those fights wasn't what would have been paid out if
Correct.
it was
It's
a guy.
not real. It's not realistic without Jake Paul involved.
Yeah, but also it's like, it should have been more, because if that was a guy fighting on the third trilogy on Netflix, the money would have been triple than what they made.
Absolutely.
And the money is public knowledge. You can Google it. You can find out. I'm just not going to say what it is. I don't feel that's relevant. My point being is that they worked hard, and their 3 fights were some of the best 3 fights trilogies that I've seen. Each one, unbelievable. The first fight in the Garden was outstanding. The second fight in Ireland, and then the third fight was just phenomenal. And, those women are advocates for the women's game, and I think they're inspirations out there now where other young female fighters can actually look up and say, you know what? I got a shot to maybe make a living in this game. I got a shot to be a world champion.
Absolutely. And, I was at the last Katie Taylor-Serrano fight, and it was more than a fight. That was an event. That Madison Square Garden had such energy that night. And, MVP did an amazing job with their undercard as well.
Yeah.
And, it was amazing with the Puerto Rican culture and then the Irish culture and the chants going back and forth. It was bigger than a fight. And like you said, the money should have been a lot more because there probably hasn't been a fight of that magnitude. And I don't know since when,
Well, the build up, and you know what? We were talking about this earlier with another guest. You have two countries involved here. You have that are backing their fighters. Okay, there's culture, ethnicity into it. So, it does bring a little bit more hype. You're not only fighting for yourself, you're fighting for your country, your fan base, your heritage, you might say. And that puts another edge in fighting, which I think we're losing today on the mainstream level. It's not always that. Some of the fights are just, I talked about Usyk. Usyk is fighting for a country. Every time he goes out, he fights for a country. His country is in shambles. Yeah. He doesn't sugarcoat it. So how hard is it to beat a guy like that or a woman like that? You know what I mean? When they have that backing. Jack Dempsey fought Max Schmeling. You had the United States warring with Germany at the time. Huge fights, right? I mean,
even going back, I'm sorry to cut you, even going back to my uncle's days, right? You had when he fought Billy Graham, and Billy Graham was undefeated. You had in New York City, you had the Italian culture versus the Irish culture, and probably had that same energy in the Garden back then.
At a local end, you have two groups rooting for their own people right off the rip, and it's that. But back to the women's end, what do you see for? You're in the beginning stages of this, obviously. You're running with it. What do you see long term for this? As one for your platform, and then one is this fundraiser going to be something that you kind of bring to a bigger level?
The fundraiser I'd like to do on a bigger level. It's the beginning phase of it.
Right.
I'm going to get a couple thousand, hopefully, and be able to bring it to the shelter. But I like to continue doing certain things, maybe every couple of months. We got breast cancer awareness and certain things that we can give back as a team and a growing team. And I look at myself down the road as an advisor / manager, right? I can open up other doors for some of these young females when they decide to turn pro, because I do have a lot of connections within the industry from my uncle's time and just people. I'm not a young kid, so I have relationships.
You've been around, you've built some relationships.
Correct. So doors can open up that some other people, you're not going to have that chance to open the door. And I don't look at myself as a person that I'm going to be Jake Paul or anything like that. I look at myself as a conduit to get people to an Ed Hearn, a Jimmy Birchfield, a Jake Paul. That's right. What I would look to do.
Now, you were around your family, your uncle being a fighter, the stories, the lore, the history of the sport, eventually a documentary being done on him, other stuff that you're working on right now.
Just comments from my wife, an award-winning documentary.
Award-winning, okay. We got you there, award-winning. Was that the lure to go to the next step in the sport, or why? Why? Because I ask people, why boxing? We can do so many different things. I know, you're involved in your job. You're involved very deeply with your family. Boxing is just something like, we talk about it all the time. It's it kind of consumes you whether you think it's going to or not. Even if you touch it at a little bit of a level, it does take a control of you and pull you in. So you saw and heard the stories of your uncle's career, what it did, the good and the bad from it. So you were in the kind of trenches of knowing what boxing was like, and then to,
You know what it is,
dive
Dave?
deep into it.
I think I've always, hence this fundraiser, right? I think I've always been somebody that wants to give back to certain things, right?
Right.
And from knowing my uncle's story and other people in the industry, I want to hopefully guide some people into doing better with their careers long term, not just their fighting career, their lifeline, right? Because I don't want to see people get exploited for money and then wind up not having anything after they're doing all these fights. That's a big passion of mine. Larry Barnes out of Champs in New Rochelle as well. He was a big inspiration for me to get into this. When I started going to boxing events and talking to Larry, and he was speaking about just the mismanagement of his career and not being happy with certain other people's careers and talking about that, I was like, maybe I can make a difference. So Larry's a big inspiration for me in this industry.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of stories like Larry, and I kind of like, fighters are some misled, some uneducated in what they're signing or getting into. Not that they're uneducated individuals. It's just, some people are businessmen, some aren't, and I think the lure of being a champion kind of overrides everything, and you're not realizing, look, you're the business. The fighter, I talk about this all the time, the fighter's the business. Without the fighter, there's nobody around him.
Absolutely.
Okay, there's no advisors, there's no trainers, there's no promoters, there's no anybody, right? But the fact is, a fighter only thinks short term, whereas you play in other sports, you get a pension after 10 years. If you're a Major League Baseball player, NFL football, NBA, you're vested after 10 years. Even if you don't make it to the major leagues and you played in the minor league system, after 10 years, you're eligible for a pension.
Sure.
You're not in boxing, and these guys coming in, not all of them are well-funded. Most of them aren't.
Most of them aren't, yes.
Most of them aren't. And there are people with the lure of easy money that, see ways to make paychecks. And then at the end of the day, the fighter doesn't have anything left for himself. So I kind of like that aspect, because I feel, when you're talking to a fighter, you got to have like, okay, you're going to get this, this, and this. What are you going to do after you're done fighting?
Absolutely. And how long do you expect to be fighting? You know what I'm saying? Like, to have realistically a 10, 12-year career, it's not realistic. You're probably looking at a 5-6 year career, right?
Of making money.
Your
career might be 10 plus years, but your earning potential is probably 5 to 6 years if you're lucky.
Correct. And then the other big thing, and this is something on a different level, like I look to make a change hopefully one day there's got to be a healthcare system. There's got to be a healthcare system for fighters too. I'm around too many former fighters or ex-fighters that it's heartbreaking. Who can't eat well, they can't use their utensils, they can't, and you don't have a pension, you don't have a healthcare system to fall back on.
Right.
It's heartbreaking.
If you made no money in your career, or you didn't do anything right with your money, you're struggling out there. And for what they went through in the sport, it is difficult to see that, because, again, people don't realize what it takes for you to prepare for one fight. Like the time that people put in, injuries, the ups and downs, the adversity, whatever it is.
Not only that, right? We talk about some people we know. People have full-time jobs and they're doing this, right?
Right.
So you're training so hard to get to a certain level, but you're working an 8-hour job. So you're waking up, you're training before your job, you go into your job, you're training afterwards. At some point, that's the longevity also shortens with that, right? Because how long can you keep doing that for?
Yeah, no, 100%. Your window changes, because you can be a pro boxer and work a full-time job. You're not getting up at 10 o'clock, going to the gym, training, have your meals made for you. That's maybe 1%, maybe 0.5% of the sport. But back to where do you see, the sport of women's boxing going right now? And, from a aspect of you've been to shows, what is the fans' reaction that we see out there?
I think the fans are embracing it a lot more. And what I was just at, Jay just had a recent fight last Saturday, and she has another one coming up this Saturday. And it was interesting because I took a few friends and they came and they said, I never watched a woman fight. And they actually enjoyed it. And some people are just old fashioned and short sighted. Like, I actually remember reaching out to a friend on social media and he said, no disrespect, women shouldn't be fighting. And I'm like, wow, that's so antiquated,
Yeah.
to have that mindset.
Women athletics in a whole right now is at a whole different level. Women's basketball, we take the UConn program, colleges around the country at high level. Whereas, when we grew up, it wasn't as prevalent, right? We come from a different generation, you and I, okay? And I think to watch women's boxing evolve from the stages I seen it in the beginning, all right, to where it is today, there are athletes out there. There are good fighters out there. And not saying because they're women or men, they're good fighters.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of talent out there. They work hard. They're working hard. To me, I'll take a woman fighter over a man fighter some days because they're going to work harder.
You know what?
They're going to work a lot harder.
I enjoy the women's sports in general over men's sports because I think there's a lot more. The hard work is, you're spot on, but it's also the precision is there. A lot of men's sports are a lot more athleticism nowadays, and people lost the precision in sports in the men's sport. And as the women's sport is elevating, I think because their precision is spot on. And sometimes I'll watch a fight. I'll watch a men's fight after Jason's fight. I'm not as entertained because there's a lot more just brute athleticism and the precision isn't there.
Yeah. Well, look, they're being, I think, more technical. So they'll spend more time in the amateurs where they're building their fundamentals a lot better than, some fighters are just an athletic talent, and not to say they're overlooking their fundamentals, but their athleticism kind of takes over, I think. But with the women, I do see the more technical end of it. It could be because of their training, their focus, their ability to prove that I am a better fighter or I belong to be here than with some of the men. And their opportunities don't come
That's a
as
good
much.
point.
You know what? Like, we're seeing it more now. We go back, Christy Martin fought on a Don King card. She set the way in women's boxing for, what it is today. Now, the majority of the cards, you hope most of the time have a woman's fight on.
Period.
At least, at least one. I mean, the Katie Taylor-Serrano fight was an all-female card. Made history right there. So, and on Netflix around the world for everybody to see right there.
It goes back to the question of what is my goal on my platform? My platform is that to try to enhance the interest of the women's game. And I think it slowly but surely, I came along at the right time with this idea because the Jake Paul thing came at the same wave. And it's like I caught a perfect wave of people having an interest in it, as opposed to, like you said, we go back even 7-8 years ago, Cindy Serrano, right? Cindy was a hell of a fighter, Hall of Famer, right? There was no interest in watching Cindy Serrano. And I feel bad for some of the people like Cindy and Maureen. They came before the time of people actually watching the sport. And like you said, they actually almost had their managers and promoters almost had to beg to get on a card with a men's card.
Yeah, no, definitely true about that. But now we see, the evolution different. And I think, being in the gyms, we start to see young kids, male and female, being exposed to the sport. And I think for it to continue, it has to start at the gym level where, I don't know. I have 2 daughters. I don't know if I would be versed to say, okay, you want to box. As a coach, yeah, I know I can prepare you. As a father, I don't know if that would be like a little tough. So I think if they can see role models ahead of what women fighters went through, how they handled themselves, how they become successful in and out of the ring, I think that kind of paves the way for the next level of young fighters.
I think you're spot on. And I also think the women need to look out for one another. And they do. Not saying they don't. But it's nice when, like, Jaysha was on your podcast a while back, and I had shared something, and Amanda Serrano actually reposted it. And it was great to see that giving back, because you don't realize how big of an influence you can make on somebody's life when you're at that level, the Amanda level, the Katie Taylor level. One of my favorite fighters is Francesca Hennessy, and Francesca reposting things. Even I get excited when they repost things, because now you're interacting with each other as opposed to just somebody being up here and you're just looking at them from afar. They're real people, and you can touch them.
Well, that's the one thing about boxing. I mean, boxing, you always find, you're around the game. You're seeing it at a lot of levels, from amateurs to pros to ex-pros, promoters, managers, people that are, in the sport. Fighters are approachable. Most fighters are approachable, whether they're amateurs or professionals or ex-professionals. They're very our pool is small, as it may sound as big as it is, right? Now the women's pool is even smaller. Correct. So how do you build the next generation? If you're not out there talking to the next generation, reaching out to them, being a role model to them, how does the next generation of women come through?
Well, it's funny. I was just talking to Jaysha about this the other day, and even her father, Miguel, who does a great job training her. And I was telling Jaysha, you're the big dog of my team. So when you see other people's videos or other people's fights, you throwing a comment to them is huge. It's like Amanda texting, hitting you back. And it was funny because I was speaking to one of the younger girls on the team's father, and he was like, Jaysha said hello to her one day at the Amanda Serrano-Katie Taylor fight, and she was so, Jaysha, I just talked to Jaysha. So I think the people at the high, as they're getting to the next level, need to look down and pull people up with them.
Yeah, it's like anything else. I mean, to me, boxing is, and you've been around other sports, growing up, when you met a professional athlete, they weren't as open as if you meet a fighter at a fight. A fighter is willing to talk to you, whether you're a young fighter, give you advice, and it comes off a little real, like, oh, that guy or that girl has the same struggles that I did, or similar situations, so you can relate to it. Also, these young fighters today, as they're moving up through the rankings, they need support. They need the fan support. They need, people to watch them and to cheer them on, or, follow them on social media. So I think we're building, we talk about this all the time. Boxing, we're losing generations. We're losing, okay? Your uncle's generation's gone. Unless you're a hardcore boxing guy, they don't know. Right? I show people your uncle, and till I reached out to you, I really didn't know who your uncle was. I've heard the name, but I never really read. Once we connected and you and your family came on, and Jose Corpus came on. I mean, wealth of knowledge right there. Oh my God! But that generation, people are not going to know. Like, I show fighters, I'm like, do you know who this is? Look how many times this man fought in a month.
What's funny, Dave, is a lot of these young kids even on my team or outside of my team, and I speak to them in the gym, they don't even know who Tommy Hearns was or Marvin Hagler was. And that's, 30 years ago? And it's important that we educate them on who these people were. Like, Yeah, the young kids aren't educated on, but I think that's sports wise. Period. I think people, some young kids in MLB, do they know who Willie Mays was?
No, we all did.
Yeah.
Whether you're a baseball fan or not. And like I said, I was saying to Billy earlier, I said, everybody knew who Mickey Mantle was. Even if you weren't a baseball fan, even if you weren't a Yankee fan, you knew who Mickey Mantle was. People today, even non-boxing people, know who Muhammad Ali is.
Sure.
Ask somebody who's a non-boxing guy to tell you who the heavyweight champ is right now. They couldn't tell you.
You'd be spot on. Yeah.
Couldn't tell you.
And without Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor, if you asked anybody prior to their trilogy, name me a female fighter, you probably couldn't. 1% of the population can name a female fighter at that point.
Yeah, and look, let's go while we're on the female end of it. So like you're talking about female fighters, we're talking about domestic violence. For a lot of people, I don't know if they saw the Christy Martin story on Netflix, which is, just an unbelievable story and a testament to her strength of what she went through in her story and how she persevered and, went through family issues, husband issues, abuse, and, was a world champion. And I don't know. I'm sure Christy Martin makes more money today than she did when she was fighting. And she was a hell of a fighter. She was a hell of a fighter. And, people don't know her. They'll know maybe a Layla Ali, and I'm not taking anything away from her, but she had a name.
She was the first real big name.
But she had the name Ali.
Oh, no, and I'm talking about Christy Martin. Yeah, Christy was the
first big name out
and it
there.
wasn't that big.
Right. So, her fighting on Tyson's undercard was big.
Absolutely.
And Don King promoted the hell out of it. But, a pioneer again to the sport who, boxed. I think she had over close to 30 wins. I don't know exactly. Don't hold me to it. I'm bad like that. But, seeing what the sport is now, and she's in the promotional end and everything else. But where would she be today?
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
Where would she be with the promotion out there?
Yeah, no, she'd be there because that's a lot of the heavier weights in the women's game aren't there right now, right? If you look at they're mostly around the 120s, right? The big fights. If you get a few in the 140s.
Look, they're selling it aesthetically too. So, the fighters today, they're in better shape. They take care of themselves. They look better. They're the whole package. They're promoting themselves. I get it. And we are smarter and wiser today with our training. We are smarter and wiser with our technology so that you can take care of yourself and your body and everything else a lot better. We know more. We know what to do. That definitely helps. But, marketing, the marketing of the women's game is out there today, whereas it wasn't. The mindset years ago, Christy Martin came from West Virginia. What the hell's the mindset? You know what the mindset is there. If you watch the movie, you know it. If you know anything about it, not to take away from it, it's a different phenom, right? And you and I come out of the same generation. It's like, okay, you're a woman fighter. Okay, you might not say anything, but you might not take it seriously. But today, these girls out there are just,
I think people are taking it serious nowadays. They are. The ones that we're seeing now.
But with the promotion, okay, with the promotion of social media, with the acceptance of the sport now at the level being recognized by the WBC, WBO, WBA, IBF, they're recognizing the women as a talent out there in the sport. So back to your platform, okay? Young fighters right now, is there an aspiration to tap into the pro level for a Tough Tony team?
Absolutely. I'm hoping that one or two of the girls on my team now are going to turn pro,
Right.
Jaysha, I think, is coming to a finish line as far as an amateur. there's only so much you could do as an amateur.
Right.
She's done everything.
But
that
she's
you
still
can
young.
Do.
She's still a young
Correct.
woman.
She's still very young. She's only 18. I think she'll be 19 next month or December. You
Right.
know, and the world's in front of her. So I just, again, in the advising part, my part, hopefully, is to guide her to the right spot. Even if I'm not involved in it later on, that I can feel good that I guided her and her family to a better place, the safest spot possible. I don't like to see people get taken advantage of, especially when the young lady's the one in there getting hit in the head.
Right. So people reaching out to you now must be curious as far as, what you're doing and what are some of the questions that you're getting right
Well, you know
now?
what's interesting, Dave, is, and you know this as a trainer, trainers are very possessive, and I'm not looking, like I'll reach out to someone, when the young lady reaches out to me, I say, hey, Dave, just so you know, I'm trying to help promote the industry. I'm not looking to poach her. People are very possessive out in this industry. Yeah. But I also realize there's a lot of great people in it. They look out for one another. Like, Floyd Patterson's gym, Tracy Patterson's gym,
Anthony
Patterson.
Bongiorno, great gym.
We reached out to, do a little presser for Jay up there, and he opened up the gym, and he was great. Shots gym with Kyle up there, and the people that run Shots. Great people out there. It's like everybody shares the industry. It's very nice, especially because in the female pool, there's not a lot of fighters. So, like, I have two girls on the team that actually fought each other, Alex and Julia, right? But you're going to spar each other down the road anyway, and you're going to have to probably fight each other. Like, you're going to see each other.
Work is hard to come by on not only the male level, but every level of fighting right now. On the female level, you got to go where the game is.
Like, I just had a female fighter reach out to me yesterday on Instagram, and she was like, hey, can you help me get some sparring? I'm having a tough time finding sparring. So I'm connecting her with sparring, and you don't know where that goes next, right? So
well, listen, in the boxing community is a small community, and I'm like you. You know what? You got to connect people out there. You don't know where it's going to come back, or how you might need something. Also, like, you might need sparring someday. You got to reach out to people. I reach out to a coach and, like, okay, here, I don't have anybody, but call this coach. All right. I mean, I talked to a coach a couple of months ago out of Boston, needed some sparring, connected them. Okay. They came down. All right. It was actually one of Ryan's guys. So, you got to build these relationships and you got to kind of keep them because, you're only as good as you are in the sport and
your network. And
your network and everything else. Bigger picture. Do you see yourself promoting? I'll put you on the spot. I never asked you that.
You know what? I don't know about promoting. I could see myself working with a promoter. Like, okay. Let's say I'll do
all-girl show?
I would love to do all-girl show, yes. And you never know. Like, I won't mention any names. You get somebody that already does shows, and they say, hey, you know what? I know you have connections and you have this aspiration. Let's do an all-girl show, and we can make this work. That's what I see myself as a promoter. All-girl
tournament.
Absolutely. There's a couple of other great people in this industry to do that, and it's fabulous. Like, In Your Corner Boxing, there's Stephanie out in
Walcott.
In Walcott, she does a fabulous job, and we all need to work together and just keep rising the industry up. That's the key to it. I'm not looking to be a kingpin, and I don't think anybody is. That's the beauty of this.
We're doing this for the love of the game. Okay, this is
Correct.
Not the pay-per-view that they're selling that you see, Canelo and Crawford, where everybody's making millions. We're out there in the streets doing our work because we love this. I know Christy Martin tried to do an all-girl amateur show a couple of years ago. I don't know why something happened. It might have been during COVID that it got. But I thought that was a great an idea to have like an all-girls amateur tournament and, come from around the country, because I think every woman that's in the sport runs into the kind of same issues, whether you're here in New York or Texas or wherever the case may be. We got girls driving in for whatever, come train for
Correct.
sparring, calling coaches up, you know, I remember on one of our first amateur shows, we had two girls. One girl came in from Pennsylvania and one girl came in from upstate New York because there was no match, but for an amateur show.
Yeah. No, it's recently, I went out to see Jasha fight recently. It's 3.5 hours away in Pennsylvania. But that's where you got to go to get the fights. Sometimes you got to go up to Boston. Recently, some people go up to Boston and fight. There needs to be more all-female cards. It'd be nice to have an all-female card, but then again, like you talked about, people coming in from Texas, let's say, there's not a lot of money to be paid out, right? So they got to have the hotel. They got to have them eating while they're here for 3 or 4 days. Like even the young ladies that go out, both sexes, that go out to fight in nationals, right? You're out there for a week. You got to pay for the hotel for a week. You got to pay for the flight. Hopefully, USA Boxing pays for the flight for you to go out, but you still got to eat, right? You get and lodging and all that. So.
Yeah, no, look, there's a lot. I know USA Boxing does what they can, and your local LBCs, but most of the stuff is on families and if you're fighting like any other sport today, all right, boxing's a little different because, to go to these tournaments, you got to fly, all right, whereas maybe, you're not spending so much money up front in the training and everything else, but when it's time to go to the tournament, you got to, and if you're going back to back to back to some of these national tournaments,
absolutely,
it becomes pricey, right? So you got to fundraise off of it, and it becomes a little bit challenging for these fighters in these gyms. I mean, look, we do our fundraisers, just so that our fighters can have their books, our fighters can have equipment if they need it. If there is a tournament, we're fundraising. When we had guys go to nationals or Silver Gloves, we raised money. It becomes challenging. How do you see that as, here it is, you're in the preliminary stages of this. You're not even a year into this, right? And you're building. Do you see yourself attracting sponsors to help with this and to, for you as the person to make a decision and say, okay, we got this young lady going to a tournament. We want to help, or, we have this family, or whatever the case may be. Is that more of some of the direction you're going to go in also?
I believe so. And that's why I also believe in what my platform is beneficial towards. It's building somebody's social media up, right? So now when we do fundraise to get somebody to go to nationals that needs help,
right,
you're not asking a pool of 500 people, you're asking a pool of 5,000 people. And again, if you feel like you know someone, you got Fighter X and you're interacting with Fighter X, and when Fighter X's video's up there and you put their fight up and you comment and they're commenting back, you might be more apt to give them money for their fundraiser because you actually feel like you have a relationship with them. And that's one of the things I tell the young ladies, like, interact with the people that comment back to you, because that's an important thing that makes people come back,
Right. Yeah, good point. But now back to the fundraiser. What can people do besides the shirt to help in this? And when are you going to have a deadline on this right now?
Great question. This fundraiser is very grassroots. So I don't have any, GoFundMe page or anything like that. People are actually sending me the money. I'm buying the shirts. The difference of the cost of the shirts goes towards the fundraising. Some people are like, listen, I don't wear T-shirts. Here's $25. Anybody can send me money and do it. And hopefully you trust in the industry that I'm not looking to take your money, and all the money I'm earning is going towards. As a matter of fact, it costs you money because there's a lot of people that you want to have a shirt that you just want them to have the shirt. I'm not going to charge a Maureen Shea for a shirt. I'm not going to charge Shelly Vince. I'm not going to. They're doing me a favor by promoting the shirt.
Right.
So
the cause, because eventually the cause is to get bigger, right? This is the
absolutely
ground, right? Like this is the first year. This is not something that's going to go away, whether you do it for another cause or none. But I think the domestic violence, like, look, you're in the ground floor right here. So I think for people to donate, whether it's for a shirt or look, everybody has a cause of what they want to put something to. it's a great cause. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, if you can provide some gift cards, if you can provide some training or some gym time for some of these young ladies that need to feel good about themselves, to get their confidence level back, and to, be a
Absolutely.
part of something.
Absolutely, Dave. And that's, like I said, this is the first venture into the fundraising. It could be a lot more of this. There's, especially with the domestic violence cause, like we talked about, a lot of these women that get involved in it have some sort of, if it's not one-on-one, it could be the 6 degrees of separation, right?
Yeah, there's something that, yes,
Got them involved.
understand.
Maybe they watch their parents fight and mom,
Right.
get abused here and there, and they got into the ring to learn how to defend themselves, and to, some of
Well,
them.
you know what? And you're right. Boxing is about defending yourself, but boxing is also camaraderie, because,
Absolutely.
going to the gym, being a part of something makes people feel good. You don't have to be a pro fighter. You don't have to be an amateur fighter. We know there are people in the gym. Some people are on Wall Street. Some people just got out of jail. Some people's the guy who runs the deli down the street. Whatever. We're so many walks of life, right?
Absolutely.
You come to the gym, you're talking to 20 different people. You
All
don't
different-
judge
all
them.
different cultures,
You don't
all
judge
different
them what they did
ethnicities.
or what they didn't do, right? They have the same love of what we have. And with that, right, brings a confidence at any level. It brings a confidence. It brings a safe haven for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a safe spot, a safe haven, like you said. And going back to Ryan and Champs down there, I love watching the girls come from all over. Like you said, some come from money, some don't. Some come from this, some come from that. But after the day is done with the sparring, they take their picture together and they're goofing around with each other. And some of my other girls that come from up the line come down there and they're like, boy, I love it down here because it's missing up by us. Because some gyms, like up in Shots, you got the 2 girls, Riley and Julia, they're fighting each other all the time, right?
Yeah. Well, the other factor is, look, you help elevating people, right? You help elevating, whether you're going to end up fighting that young lady or that young man, right? You want to make them better,
Correct.
right? You want to make them better, because at the end of the day, when it's your time to fight, they're going to be there to help you.
Absolutely.
And that's important, okay? That's important to have that support. And it's not, we're fighting this gym, that gym. Oh, I'm from this gym. No, it's work. You got to get yourself better, right? It's the scrimmage, okay? You need to be owning your craft. You can't just stay there.
Can't stay stagnant.
Yeah, you can't just stay there hitting the bag and hitting the pads and then expect to be a fighter. No, you got to, go into the game. It's like, baseball. You can go to the batting cage every day. Until you see live pitching,
Correct.
don't mean anything, right? So, I mean, I like the idea. I like the fact that the giving back aspect, there's a lot of legs to go with it, that there are not a lot of people involved with it right now that want to give back. We hear this. But also, I know you're involved in Ring 8.
Yes.
A lot of different gentlemen that you're involved in the sport that aren't fighters. You have, our friend Jose Corpus, great author. If you haven't read his book, Four Belt Era, not Era, give it a look, because it gives a different perspective from the boxing world. I know Charlie Wood from Brown's Boxing Card, another gentleman who is, he's giving back to the sport, and Charlie's a very humble guy. And if you get a chance to meet him, he is just very soft-spoken, but is
loves the sport
of boxing. And if you watch him, I got to see him at that event. You could see him. He's like a young kid, like we all were when, we're around.
I joke around with Charlie. I call him a fanboy when he's around.
Yeah. I know Bobby Cassidy, who's done your,
Absolutely.
These are all guys that, boxing people know.
And you know what's funny with all of us? It's not about money. It's about passion.
I was getting to that. So, with your platform at Ring 8, I know you're involved. What's their reaction to what you're doing?
I think they're excited about it. Like Jaisha Sabata, I know I keep mentioning Jaisha, but she just got nominated and won the Amateur Fighter of the Year for Ring 8, the Female Amateur Fighter of the Year. It's the first one ever.
That's going to be at their holiday dinner, December 4th, at Russo's on the Bay?
December 14th.
14th.
Yes, December 14th.
Yeah, that's a
And think about that. I'm sorry, they never
Go
had
ahead.
they never had a female amateur fighter of the year before. So that basically, I'm not going to say that's for me, but having
Right.
this platform and being around that exposed that to open a
Right,
new
but that's
door.
the start to something else. Okay, that's that now. Now somebody can say, as a woman athlete, they could say, "Wow, I could win that award next year. I got
Absolutely,
something
there's some
to
aspiration for
right
it.
to
Yep.
work for, which is opening up doors for
Correct.
that." But all right, tell us a little bit about where we can get the shirts. If people want to donate, look, people, let's just keep this real because Neil's a humble guy. He'll probably put more of his own money in than he's going to take from anybody. Y'all need to go in your pockets. It's real simple here. Whether you buy a shirt or not, I know we know a lot of people out there. Between myself and Neil, write a check, $20, $25,
Absolutely.
$100, whatever it is, whatever. We're going to make a donation to
Tough Tony team, or you
right.
can just put it
But
to
what's the
My Sister's Keeper.
My Sister's Keeper is going to get the proceeds.
I'm sorry, My
of
Sister's
this.
Place.
My Sister's Place is going to get the proceeds. So when we're done raising this up, there will be an announcement of what we're donating out to them and what has been raised here. So it's not just going to go unheard of. This is the first year of this. Okay, this is something that we want to do long term wise, not only on Neil and the Tough Tony team, but on my platform, also Coach's Corner. We want to build this where we're giving back to the community. So, I would appreciate our network, friends, family, whatever it is, please, if you can, I know times are tough, but please, this is a great cause, not only for the fight community, but out there, for people in need. It is the holiday seasons coming up. We have Thanksgiving and Christmas, and in my book, it's always good to give back a little bit because we're blessed in many different ways, and I know I am,
Yes,
and I know Neil, who he's out there spending a lot of time trying to do something good for fighters and for some of these young women out there today. So
I just want to say thank you to a few people that have actually sponsored and given
Right.
some nice sized checks. There's Elsa Ferrara and she's a realtor down in Westchester. It's amazing. My friends at Gianna's Italian Restaurant in Yonkers, a phenomenal place.
yeah, look, if you want to, forget it. Great pizza, great food.
Yourself, Farmer Strength, Champs in Danbury, and our friend at Get Elevated Apparel.
Dan Gray. Dan
Dan did an
elevated.
amazing job, and
Yeah.
it kind of reminds me. I'm feeling very grassroots with this, and Dan feels very grassroots with this. So it just feels natural that we're working on this together and moving along.
I mean, and look, and this is the same thing, real quick, right? We gravitate to people in the sport. Dan Gray is a gentleman I gravitated towards with his platform of Get Elevated, just because I liked his initiative out there, right? Get elevated, attitudes cross obstacles. If you're a fighter, those two things right there, that should be on your shirt somewhere. That should be in your mantra somewhere. And even for life, attitudes cross obstacles. We all have obstacles there. So check them out.
And like you said, Dave, at the end, just so you know, everyone will know. You'll know what I'm giving back. We'll do it during the holiday season.
Yeah, we'll make an announcement. We'll put a post up.
And hopefully have a couple of girls, like I said, we'll make something out of this, because I want them to feel part of this whole giving back. And I think once you start giving back, you kind of let positivity roll in a positive way.
Yeah, I agree. And now look, any gyms out there that want to reach out to Neil, want to reach out to me, look, feel free. Neil is very accessible. He answers. Check him out on Instagram. He answers constantly on a Tough Tony team. Feel free to reach out to him, talk to him. He's, doing some great things out there, not only for the women's game of boxing, but boxing itself. And you know what? We need people building up this sport so that we can keep going. And look, I'm just going to say real quick, if we have anybody out there that's looking to be helpful in this sport, you don't have to be a trainer. You don't have to be a fighter. Maybe you do social media. Maybe you want to help raise some money. Maybe you want to help some of these gyms. There's plenty of people out there that could use your help. And, if you love the sport, even if you don't know too much about it, you could be a part of something here, because the boxing community, we need a village to be successful.
Yeah, like even if they follow Ring 8 on Facebook, there's a lot of ex-fighters that always need help, and there's a lot of charity fundraisers that we do here and there for it. Like, people that just hit tough times, and it's good to, like you said, doesn't have to be a lot. If everybody gives $10, it's a lot of money to give back to somebody.
Exactly. So, look, check my guy Neil Pellone out, Tough Tony Team on Instagram. Hit him up. Look for the fundraiser. It's there. If you need a shirt, reach out to him. He'll get it out to you. If not, you want to make a donation, please let him know what it is. We will recognize it. We will give you a shout out. We will make sure you know when it's dropped, what we're donating to my sister's place. And, it is definitely a great charity for us to be involved with here right now. And once again, Coach Dave McDonough on Coach's Corner podcast. Train hard, train smart, and we'll see you in the next round.